Hello YouTube! Hot on the heels of last week's Springman video, we're gonna look at his tag partner currently, Buffaloman. It's Buffaloman. Buffaloman has always been a very popular character. He's obviously kind of like the head honcho or like the captain, the leader of like the Seven Devil Trojans. He ended up being a good guy for a little while, which kind of just goes to show how popular he was. Quick reminder, like deep cut trivia for the manga OGs out there, right? Buffaloman wasn't even meant to be kind of like the main leader for Devil Trojans. I think like they meant Black Hole to be that first, but then they were like, Buffaloman's way cool. Let's make him the real bad guy, right? So here he is, and it's very popular. Definitely ended up sticking around like for the whole series, right? Definitely one of the first like really iconic matches that Kinnikuman had. So obviously very popular, and obviously even though we just passed like this episode where he got to show off quite a little bit, he's not done. Obviously, again, spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen the episode, but this is meant to go after them, so your fault for not having seen the episode yet. He's definitely not. This won't be his last fight in the series, right? I don't think that's a surprise because he obviously he's alive. He's kicking around. He's too important, too popular to not get at least another fight later down, like in this arc, right? But for now, that was kind of Buffaloman's moment of glory, getting a win, I guess. And so for today, let's kind of talk about what Buffaloman does, especially if you're just inspired to play him after you saw, Buffaloman doing Buffaloman things, right? So how does Buffaloman play in MGP2? As you might have expected, as you can just see from how he is, Buffaloman is a very slow, very lumbering, but very high damage character. Yeah, right, like that's not a surprise. Like, come on, look at him. How does this translate of the gameplay exactly beyond just me saying things? His frame data, for one, is not great. His jab is 17 frame startup. It's very slow. His jab string is not a natural string because it's like this. It's heavy stun, sure, but there's like a massive gap between this and like the next hit. Right? So he's just very slow. Like when your jab is 17 frames, where most characters' jab are like 11, 12 frames, 13 frames, you're kind of like in a rough spot, right? So that just kind of shows off he's very slow. But as you might expect for Buffaloman, he does do a lot of damage because should you be able to land this heavy stun, maybe you can go for like heavy stun throw that goes into an OTG. Not that true. My bad. Like he's not a throw that goes into an OTG. I think that one at least guarantees a 2-way, I believe. But you can just see he can quickly just rack up the damage because he is a high damage character. He's damage rating 15. Oh, I guess like that throw doesn't get I get like under OTG, never mind. But he can do stuff like this maybe, like this, into this cool Scar transfer throw, and then even have time to dash up and then get an 8A, and which I missed. Let's try it one more time. There we go. Yeah. So he can do pretty high damage combo. Like that was a cool 435 of hitting his admittedly very slow 5S, right? So as you can quickly tell, Buffaloman is one of those characters where his neutral is quite bad, or he does have like some forward moving moves. Obviously, he has, the Hurricane Mixer, which as you might expect is just a forward moving launcher, right? And which you can pick up off, which we'll talk maybe a bit more later. He does have an air throw, so you can like convert off of like a lot of launches. But you can tell his character, like, maybe his neutral isn't amazing, his frame data is frankly pretty bad. His throw have like pretty bad range, as you can see there, but when he hits you, it's gonna hurt. That's the whole point. He makes you explode if he does manage to like touch you. Though touching someone might be kind of difficult with Buffaloman. This is taking up to 11 because I haven't even shown you all the stuff that makes him insanely high damage. He has, of course, like a really good special throw. That special throw does a cool 360 damage. And on top of this, he also has a very good OTG. This little Hurricane Mixer here, that's a bit different. This is regular Hurricane Mixer, which is like 6XS. Whereas this is his special Hurricane Mixer, which is 236S, right? You can see like it's a little bit different there. Now, Hurricane Mixer only hits once, but Special Hurricane Mixer can hit multiple times. And this makes it an incredibly strong OTG. For example, if you land like this Tombstone Power Driver, he gets to OTG with the Hurricane Mixer, and that does like 180 damage in OTG, which is like really good, right? And it's also a very fast OTG, so you can actually get it from like a lot of stuff. So you can do something like get a 5S into his special throw, into a Hurricane Mixer, and that's 660 damage, which is like, that's a lot of damage. So he's very satisfying to play, I think, because he doesn't have a lot going on, but just like gets a lot of damage very quickly, and it's kind of satisfying to see like big numbers, right? To even think this is more up to 11, he also has like juggle loops because he has his kind of like only fast special move is like this kind of launching upwards Hurricane Mixer. This combos from like his jab, and it's his only move, like basically only real move that can punish a throw because it's 12 frames, right? His jab is 17 frames, so that's not punishing throw tech, right? That kind of punish that, and then you can like basically pick up off of that, right? But the Hurricane Maester have a pretty unique property that if you land it on someone in when they're already airborne, it'll send them sky, like, you know, upwards, which means you can loop this, kind of something like this. And this can go into a lot of damage, right, if you just have the meter to spend for it, which is another thing we'll talk about a bit later. So you can definitely get a lot of stuff there. He also has a throw that leaves them standing. It leaves them at plus 20, so you can link like a lot of stuff off of it. You can do something like this into a Hurricane Mixer, and then, you know, goes for loops that way, right? He also has like a few other links he can do that are a bit more difficult, that are like better in some ways. I won't get into it too much because I promised myself these will be intro videos, so they won't be too in depth. But the coolest thing you can link off of that throw is his super, if I can get it. He has to do supers. This is kind of his better one because like this super lets him OTG off of it, right? And that's like a very cool 705 damage off of landing like this little throw, right? And that's very satisfying, I think. Definitely not the easiest link, but not too bad if you practice it. I don't even know that if that link was real. I want to say it was, but I don't know for sure. I guess while I'm at it, right, so I can like just do this now instead of like towards the end of the video. I can show off like his other super. It's just he Hurricane Mixers you a lot of times. It's like most characters, right, the two supers are very similar, except this super doesn't give you an OTG because it leaves him so far away that you always just do this super because like this super guarantees, you know, various OTGs, right? So that's pretty good. He also has, he's not too bad either like in defense. Obviously his jab not great for you know, barring out of pressure, but he does have panic button in the 4-4S. That's kind of like this kind of gimmicky like double shark move, which you can kind of get used to like get out of like bad positions. He also has a Longhorn Guard, which is kind of like the a muscle curtain that the Kinnikuman has. It's not as good, like it's slower, also like slower castle window, but it's better than nothing, right? Like this is technically a 5-frame startup move, which is, I guess in that sense, make it like its fastest like normal. You can also punish throws, but it's not very good at it, so I'm not even gonna try to show that off. Just if you're punishing throw, stick with this, right? But yeah, that's kind of Buffaloman's kind of a lot of strengths, right? He's definitely like a very high damage character, and that's very satisfying. Very simple, very straightforward, very limited strings. Basically, his only string is just this and this. Right? He can do like a little follow-up off of like his launcher. So very like limited, very can strings. So a very simple character, but definitely one that can just do a lot of damage, and that can be very satisfying to do. He also has like a pretty neat corner throw, I guess, where he does this and he like slams you, and then you get like OTG with the Hurricane Mixer, which I guess I can I'll talk a bit more about that. Sorry for the disqualification, right? But like this really does combo off like basically all of his knockdowns, and so like it's so nice to have, right? They can do like something like this into that, into dash up Hurricane Mixer, right? 525 damage, like it's really neat. But yeah, that's kind of a lot of his strengths. He's definitely pretty straightforward to pick up, like just because he's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, pretty basic, I guess. And he's just doing like a lot of damage, I think, at a low level, like just feels very satisfying. Now, what are his main issues? You might have already clued into a few of them. But you might notice a lot of his strengths, a lot of his big damage comes from a lot of his special moves, right? How much do those special moves cost? Let me turn this up to max bar so you can actually see how much they cost. So, special throw, obviously, 3 bars, that's like standard, right? How much does like special Hurricane Storm go? It's 3 bars. Yeah, that's a problem. This OTG, which is again a very good OTG, unfortunately, it costs 3 whole bars, which is not cheap. It's definitely quite expensive, right? Skyrim Hurricane Mister is also like a 2 bar, which is standard, but definitely since he wants to do it a lot, feels a bit worse, right? So, and I think like the Devil Shock is also like 2 bars, I believe. Yeah, right? So Buffaloman is very meter hungry. He kind of needs it to actually like get his big damage. He needs it to be able to, you know, get out of pressure situations or corners with like a lot of this, right? So doing like the Hurricane Mixer loops that I was showing earlier, you basically kind of need all the meter in the world, quite literally, because otherwise you just don't get that many reps, and if you don't, it's not really worth it, right? So like this, if I do this into that, right, this into another one, this into another one, this into the air throw, that was already like, you know, 4 or 5 bars, which is that's a lot of damage, but I spent like what, 6 bars on that, which is, so that means like doesn't feel great. So it's very meter hungry. That's one of the main issues. Of course, his other problems, you also can like already see it. Very slow, very limited strings, and you know his throw punishment is not existent without meter, because you know if you can do, you have to like do this, right, which costs 2 bars. So if you don't have 2 bars, you can like try to punish with this, which is awful, right? Because like this is even like, this is like minus on hit, I think. So not great. Small throw range as well. So definitely all these things like stack up. But definitely he does like a lot of damage. Like that's pretty cool, right? But definitely very meter hungry. So I think you can definitely kind of make a case to play Buffaloman on like red KKD instead of blue KKD, right? Definitely like more meter lets him do more damage. So I think like you can definitely like, make a case for that. But that also kind of gets into maybe like Buffaloman's, in my opinion, most damning weakness, I guess, and it's kind of a more meta weakness. That's the fact that the mountain exists, right? We took a look at him a few weeks ago, or like a few episodes ago rather, and the thing with mountain is that a lot of the big bodies in this game, I think, play pretty similarly, in the sense that they're very much all about, I'm gonna do like a lot of damage while having bad neutral, bad frame data, right? Mountain fits into this mold, Buffaloman fits into this mold. Big Budo a bit less, but kind of in the same vein. Scarface is sort of like in that mold. Big Body also definitely in that mold, although he has like the weird thing where like he doesn't have a lot of health, right? But a lot of characters like kind of very at a high level, similar thing going on, where there's just, I'm gonna touch you once and you're gonna die from that, right? Hopefully, with varying levels of extremity, I guess. But Buffaloman and Mountain, I think, are very much like in a similar mold of, I need a lot of meter to do my thing, but at the same time, I will really make you explode. I think out of all the characters that I named, these two have the highest like output, damage output if you ignore the meter. But of course, Mountain is even more so than other Buffaloman, right? The reason why I don't argue that Mountain should be on Blue KKD compared to like Buffaloman is that Buffaloman Blue KKD can still like get like that extra damage, but like Blue KKD on Mountain is almost like overkill. He just already does so much damage with his, you know, regular stuff, even without the damage buff, right? And in a lot of ways, Mountain is even like has better frame data, right? Like he has an actual jab string that combos into his throw, which is really good. And I'm not gonna go to Mountain, right? Like y'all have seen on that video, that's like my most viewed video. But I think like there's like this problem where Mountain and Buffaloman are both these characters who really need a lot of meter to function, but Mountain like just does it better, right? So it's almost like Buffaloman in a vacuum is not good, right? But he's fine. But why play Buffaloman if Mountain's in the game? That's kind of, I think, the issue there, because he kind of just does what a Buffaloman wants to do, but better, which is very unfortunate, I think. But I think like that's kind of let's not talk about like that costume. That's, I think, kind of one of the main issues with Buffaloman, unfortunately. I'm actually show off like the Buffaloman because I think like he has a cool like alt costume here, which even changes how Lenhart says his name. Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the main hang-ups I would say with Buffaloman, that he's kind of like quote unquote made redundant by Mountain being in the game, which, to be fair, probably like a lot of characters like that's true for, but with Buffaloman you really feel it because like they just that their game plans are so similar. It's just like how they go about trying to achieve that, right? So yeah, that's kind of where Buffaloman is. Definitely not very good, and then arguably not very unique because again other characters kind of do the same thing. But again, if you ignore all that, right, you ignore that it is like this ghoul over the game named the Mountain. Buffaloman's kind of neat, right? He's kind of like a fun low tier hero if you are into that, right? Because ultimately, again, I can say all that stuff, but sometimes you just land poison needle into the cross slam, into special hurricane mixer, and then they're like down to like 30%, which is like, yo, that's sick, right? So I've definitely like had a lot of people who I helped to learn the game with who just get rid of those Buffaloman because he's just a lot of damage and really pretty straightforward to like get that damage, and he's not as corny as Mountain because Mountain is just, you know, Mountain, right? So he definitely has his appeal. I think I definitely can't hate Buffaloman. I like him in the series, and I still think his playstyle is kind of rewarding because it's just very much like that kind of like big body grappler vibe that you like in another game, right? People like to say everyone in this game is a grappler. They're really not. But if there are grapplers in this game, it is kind of like Buffaloman Mountain. In that sense. So yeah, if you enjoy Buffaloman, maybe not the best character, but I still think he's worth playing. He's definitely like above my cutoff, I think, for like don't bother with these characters, but do understand he is not very good, so I kind of know what you're signing up for, right? Also, if you enjoy playing big bodies, you like being like a low tier hero, Buffaloman kind of scratches that itch, right? So definitely go for it. You can definitely still have a lot of fun playing Buffaloman. Yep. So that's Buffaloman. Not too much more to say. Probably still I said way too much. I feel like I just spent like the last 5-10 minutes like just going Buffaloman is bad, but hear me out, right? But I think y'all get the picture. Again, we'll see how much of this survives post. But yeah, that's Buffaloman. Let's give him a try. Next week, I believe we're finally taking a look at Robin Mask. If I got my schedules right, I believe like that's who we're seeing next week. Because I'm pretty sure like the Diabolos fight ended with this week's episode, right? Surely, maybe. But I mentioned it like in the first episode of Discord that I'm really not sure how the pacing will go for this season. So if I got my estimation wrong, I apologize in advance. But if not, I guess I'll see you all with Robin. But for today, Buffaloman. If you like him, check him out. Not too bad, not too bad. As always, keep playing MGP2. This has been Fish Traps, and I'll see you in the next character intro video.